Did they sound bigger, better, bolder? Or, wow. Wow. And there were new faces and voices added today, and I think there's just a... We accept all people here, even the hecklers, for we are one. Bolder and older. Yes, indeed. It really was lovely. You sounded, wow. This and the sound in this space, perfect. Good morning again. I know. I see. Oh, well, this clock is wrong. It says it's 8:31. So I have plenty of time, don't I? I was thinking I'm going to watch the clock because I have a lot to share today, and somebody might also want to tell the youth that I'll probably go a little bit longer because I have a lot to share, and we have the choir Sunday, so if somebody could let the youth know that it'll probably be a little later. And then while I'm beginning to talk about what I'm setting up for October, Gary is he's bringing up the whiteboard for me because I'm going to use it later, and we couldn't put it up before the choir because we wouldn't see how beautifully you sang, so thank you. He's going to put it up because I'm going to use it a bit later and in the talk. Okay, you may have gleaned by now that my focus this month is really about Discovery is the title, and it's in honor of the magazine. This is the month, 86 years, this magazine has been teaching and serving people that don't even follow or come to a church or spiritual center. And it is when Ernest Holmes does the daily guides, they pull out some of the archival pieces to use that. So I'm really excited to be in it with Uncle Ernie. Thank you. And so the Change for Change is the archives. The affirmations were written by Dr. Holmes this month. The theme is based on that, and so you'll hear me talking about that a lot. And so Linda said that you guys are going to know why we're in black and white later for the song. I thought it was because we're talking about black and white, the principles of what we believe today. And indeed we are, because for the past month in September, we have been chatting and talking and learning and about our own personal spiritual beliefs and principles. And so I felt, in honor of the magazine, as well as the next step, that the best thing I could do would be to talk about what we believe as religious scientists. What is our teaching, this philosophy, what Dr. Ernest Holmes meant. And as the one mind would have it, in serendipity, unbeknownst to me, Dr. Reverend Jesse Jennings, who is a contributor to the magazine, did a whole article on exactly what I'm going to talk about. Thank you. And therefore, a lot of what I'm going to say are words from his article. And I'm not going to stop each time and say the quote from him, because it's a mix of my interpretation and translation and his article. If you do want to read his article, guess what? You can buy the magazine, or if you subscribe online, you can do that and see exactly what he wrote. But I want to thank him because he is a huge fan and advocate of those of us knowing about who is our founder. Why are we following this philosophy? I know it's wonderful to come to a Center for Spiritual Living and get all duded up and hear beautiful music and usually share a social hour. That's part of it, yes. And we are following a philosophy and a faith that this gentleman created more than 86 years ago that I believe resonates to us, that calls to us on both a conscious and a subconscious level. So today, I'm going to talk about that. The dictionary says belief is a state or habit of mind in which trust or confidence is placed in some person or thing, something that is believed. Especially, I love this part, a tenet or body of beliefs held by a group, a conviction of truth. Well, that's exactly what we do, isn't it, as a Center for Spiritual Living? We come together bound by or attracted to, until you get kind of entangled with it, those beliefs that call to us, this faith and philosophy. On our very own website, it says, we believe that the universe is spiritual and has intelligence, purpose, beauty, and order. Our beliefs, what we teach and practice at this center, are in harmony with all of the world's great spiritual teachings because we honor all paths to God. Jewish, Buddhist, Methodist, atheist. Whether we call it God, spirit, energy, or universal intelligence, we are ever conscious that all people, places, and things emanate from this universal intelligence that is within us and around us. So by studying and applying these spiritual laws, you get to change your unconscious beliefs into the beliefs that serve you to outpicture what it is you want in your life, which is what we did last month with all of that roto-rooting of the soul. Now, inside your program, I believe you also have a new insert today. It's double-sided. One side is a copy of the principles that I'm about to address, what we believe. The other side, I thought, was a timely use of a reverse side of a piece of paper, and it is called A Prayer for My Country, that Dr. Ernest Holmes wrote. And given the state of certain things in the nation, nothing political, it might be something you'd like to add to your spiritual practice, particularly if you're having a challenge with what is going on in our government. So that's yours to take home. Now, I'm going to read to you from the Declaration of Principles of Science of Mind that were written in 1927 by Dr. Holmes. And it is titled, originally it was titled What I Believe, because he wrote it for himself. And then as the movement grew, they adopted it to become our tenets and be what we believe. So these are the Declaration of Principles from the Centers for Spiritual Living. So I'm going to read it stanza by stanza and then kind of translate it. So that's why I said it's kind of like a black and white day. There's going to be a whiteboard, and I'm going to get these guys now because we will eventually have the projector down and a PowerPoint into it. But for now, it's the old-fashioned kind. Stanza 1. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause, capital C. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. So today, I mean, the whole concept of these principles really comes down to what we've been talking about, what you hear a lot about, which is one. So most of the time this morning when you hear me use the word one, it's capital O. Capital O, the oneness of God, the one that we are. So this is where we begin our basic teaching. This is what our philosophy is about, the oneness of who we are with and as God. And sometimes that seems so airy-fairy or distant. And the concept of these principles is about knowing that it is within everything and everything is within it. So this includes all potential as well as form. This includes those things that we might think were, air quotes, ungodly, meaning the negative or the dark things. Because if God weren't one, then there would be two separate powers. Oh, God's over here because there are beautiful flowers and puppies and trees and happy, sparkly things. But God's not over here because it's hard and it's difficult and it's dark and it's negative. If that were the case, then we would have duality. It would not be one. So what we teach and what we encourage is the understanding, consciously and subconsciously, that God is one in and through all things, all experiences, all forms, even the ones that don't seem so much fun for a while. This one God is not absorbed by its creation because being one, it's kind of infinite. It's pretty omnipresent, omnipotent, pretty powerful. And the infinite is present at every point within itself. So, if you think about that infinite intelligence, I don't know if there's any other worthier title than that you could give it other than what we've become to know as, where's my James Earl Jones voice? God, with a capital G. God, the one, the infinite, life. Call it what you will, universal intelligence, that which is who you are and animates you. It comes forth in creative work through us and manifests materially in its own mind. Okay. Stanza 2. We believe in the incarnation of Spirit in us and that all people are incarnations of Spirit. All people. So that means whatever race, whatever gender, whatever faith, whatever country, whatever zip code, whatever political party, all are incarnations of Spirit. The one is in us all. and as I teach, the one mind operating through what appears to be our individual minds, our separate minds. This was something from Dr. Jesse. We may keep our thoughts to ourselves in terms of communicating them to other people, but subjectively, what we think, feel, and believe is constantly producing some representation of itself in form. Whatever it is that we think, feel, and believe is outpicturing in form. Even if we're keeping it quiet in here, we're not telling somebody, well, you know, I'm going to build something. Squirrel. Oh, only the ADD people understood that. Speaking of building, you may or may not have noticed as you drove in the parking lot, because I know everybody knows how to drive in the parking lot correctly by coming in that way and going around. But we have new trees. We have 3 beautiful new trees. They are Japanese pistache. Sounds like, I don't know. They're also known as Keith Davy trees, whoever he may have been, but whoever he was, he chose beautiful autumn trees. And we now have them there. And Robin and Linda George, remember this, our saints, they went out and bought them for us. And then Robin and Greg Onstadt planted them yesterday. We have new trees, so you have to go love them. Thank you to you. We need to love them for doing that. But I'd like you to all go and bless them and love them and, go grow, 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 because they're going to be gorgeous. And that was a pretty quick demonstration of, we took out the old stumps, said we need new trees. Someone gave us this great recommendation. Robin and Linda went, oh, I know where to get those. And bada bing, we have trees. So thank you for that. The contents of consciousness will make themselves known, and there's nothing we can do to stop this. But we can learn how to manage it. So we get to partake of its nature and understand that we are one with this it, with the one, with God. And that's the good news. And that's also the second step of our spiritual mind treatment. I was telling the magazine group on Thursday, we talk about all the magazine stuff, that really the one thing that sets us apart from any other faith, philosophy, or religion, the thing that is the most unique to us is spiritual mind treatment, our version of affirmative prayer. And that's one of the things that drew me to the article about the World Ministry of Prayer, is because this is available for you 24/7. It's got a long history, and now it's showing up in a different incarnation of how it serves us, but there is no reason why you cannot avail yourself of what we offer as a center, either here, with our ministry of, with our practitioners, our healing chest, or through Centers for Spiritual Living if you've got something facing you. And it doesn't have to be big. It can be something simple, something that you want support for in a healing, whether it's a belief or an outpicturing of that. So we create our experience of the one in all that we do. Stanza 3. We believe in the eternity, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. That's because consciousness and creativity doesn't end. It can't, because we're talking about capital C, creator. And we, being the individualizations of that, are constantly co-creating with spirit. And as I said in stanza 2, we may not be doing it consciously, but we're doing it all the time with our thoughts, whether we speak them aloud or not. So that creativity of consciousness is always working through us. What we want to do is learn how to have it work through us, for us, in the ways that we want. Hence, we teach spiritual practice. We teach the classes. We have groups, we have books, we have all of these ways by which we learn how to access and utilize that creative process within us to our advantage. I mean, they did that for years back in, Egypt, and through Christ's time, there was an understanding of that eternality, and that's what we're going to do. And eternity is another name for the one. So the individual soul progresses and expands, and we never lose this consciousness, which can be a comfort, really, because in our faith, a lot of people ask us, because if you come from A traditional faith, well, what happens to you after you die? Is there a heaven? Is there a other place? What do we do? And we teach the eternity, the eternality of the soul and the consciousness as us. So that's important. I'll get to that later. Ernest was adamant about people understanding that. He later called it loving kindness. And our belief of death or an afterlife is really about that, our souls continuing on in consciousness and expression. Some might want to call it karma or reincarnation. You can decide, but it really is that ever-eternal cycle of creativity and consciousness outpicturing in form. Stanza 4. We believe that the kingdom of heaven is within us, and we experience this kingdom of heaven to the degree that we become conscious of it. Well, now you've probably been in religious science long enough to know that we teach that heaven is a state of mind, not a zip code or geographical location. Now, I wasn't taught that. I was taught as a little Catholic girl, heaven is in the sky with God in the white robes and clouds and angels. And then if I were a bad girl, well, wait, if I hadn't made up my mind, there might be that place in the middle, in limbo. You know, you can hang out. That to me was almost scarier than hell. The thought of being in that limbo place with, oh, that was worse than hell. Fortunately, Mom didn't know that to use that one. It would be more like, well, if you're not a good girl, you might go to hell. I was like, oh, well, that's okay, you know, I don't know. He's kind of an interesting looking dude. I don't know what he's got a pitchfork for. He's not a farmer, but okay. But I don't want to go to limbo. I don't want to be in that middle place where nothing is decided. That's just like, ooh. Of course, you know, the aspirations were to be in heaven, to be good. But we teach that heaven is a state of consciousness. It's a state of mind, as is hell, because we have all experienced it. There are times when we know we have been feeling what it's like to be in heaven, when things are just going so effortlessly, or we see a beautiful new tree, or we feel that love, there's a birth in the family, something that makes us feel that way. And we've also known what it feels like to be in hell when things are going so poorly, so harshly, and there's tragedy or difficulty, etc., and we feel like we're walking through hell. What we teach is just keep on walking, keep on trucking. Don't put up a tent. This too shall pass. So we may walk through hellish times, but we don't believe in it as being a place that you're sent to on the merits of what you did or did not do. Stanza 5. We believe the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete emancipation from all